गुरुर्ब्रह्मा गुरुर्विष्णुः गुरुर्देवो महेश्वरः गुरु साक्षात् परं ब्रह्म तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः तस्मै श्री गुरवे नमः. We are in Panchadashi, chapter 5, and this is Mahavakya Viveka. See, there are in our Shastras, Vedanta, Vivek, Vairagya, Shatka Sampatti and Mumukshutvam. These are the four qualifications that are told. The first of them is Vivek. Vivek means what? Vivek means discrimination. But discrimination in what? It has to be discrimination from between Atma and Anatma. Discrimination between the real and the unreal. Discrimination between consciousness and unconsciousness or inertness. Only when you are applying your intellect to these two sides and trying to work out what is the living principle, what is the conscious principle, and what is constituting matter. What matter is equal to unreal is equal to unreal. So when we apply our mind to that, then it is Vivek. And Vivek must lead not to the world. Vivek, when we practice discrimination, the conclusion must come in abidance in the conviction that I am the self, and eventually witnessing or witnessing awareness. If this is not happening, we are not applying the faculty of discrimination correctly. This is the important point about Vivek. Also here the word that is used is Mahavakya. Maha means great, Vakya means a sentence. So what is a sentence? Sentence usually tells you something, isn't it? A word, this is a beautiful carpet. This, what does it mean? Is, what does it mean? What does it mean? Beautiful, what does it mean? And carpet, what does it mean? All these 6-7 words have a different meaning, isn't it? All of them have different meaning. But when put together in a continuum, indicating something, but when we put them in a continuum, we gain some knowledge about something, isn't it? Just beautiful, it is not giving you any knowledge. Naturally, the question will be, what is beautiful? Who is beautiful? Where is beautiful? Carpet. What about carpet? Which carpet you are talking about? So, this carpet. This carpet is, it is existing. It is not an imaginary carpet. Because if I am imagining, you cannot see it. This carpet is what? It is beautiful. The moment we say, when different words are put together and a sentence is formed, it gives you knowledge about something, isn't it? It gives you knowingness about something. This is the first type of knowledge that comes about. So this is what what you call the Vakya. Vakya means a sentence. A sentence is comprising of multiple words, and when put together, they indicate something which you come to know. This you have to first we understand. Then, why do we need these Mahavakyas? We will tell you about that. But can we function in this world without sentences? Can we communicate to each other without sentences? Have you heard of Stephen Hawking? He cannot speak, but his thought, there is a machine which converts his thoughts into sentences and presents it in sentences on the computer and eventually as sound, and he is able to communicate, isn't it? There are other ways of communication also. By looking also you can communicate. Yeah? You can say people do lip reading also, but that is also you're speaking something, isn't it? We are here analyzing the word Mahavakya. So, so a sentence indicates something which we come to know as a result of that sentence. Now, what are the different types of sentences or vakyas? First is a Gavana Vakya. Gavana Vakya is that which lays down rules of do's and don'ts. For example, Manusmriti. Huh? It lays down rules. What does it lay down? Each person in the society, whether he is Brahmana, Kshatriya, Vaishya, Shudra, there are certain duties that he is supposed to do, and if it is told he is supposed to do this, automatically with that comes, if he doesn't do that, anything other than that he should not do, isn't it? So a person finds wherever, a person, whether he is in an organization, there are do's and don'ts. Whether you are in a ashram, there are do's and don'ts. Whether you are in a family, there are do's and don'ts. Whether you are in a society, there are do's and don'ts. Whether you are driving, do's and don'ts. There is a acceptable behavior whenever we are living in this world, isn't it? Or wherever we are living in this world. Whether inside the house, outside the house, with the people, with the objects, in the society, in the country, in the world. If you think this is a society with too many rules and regulations, you go to somewhere else. Maybe you go to aborigines, or you go to a society called what do you call? A society without rules and do's and don'ts. That there are no do's and don'ts itself is a rule, isn't it? So we find that the first type of sentences are which establish or which communicate, or by reading which you come to understand, you come to know that I am supposed to do this or I am not supposed to do that. And this is for everyone. Because if I don't do this, what are the consequences? If I do this, what are the consequences? If I live within the do's and don'ts, self-accepted do's and don'ts, societal accepted do's and don'ts, then my life will be smooth through this environment that I am living in. If I break that, then you have to face the consequences, isn't it? Some consequences are immediate. You break the speed and police catches you, immediate ticket you get. I got one today. Didn't realize. $295. Crazy.
And you would have lost some points. Right?
3 points also. But this is immediate. But there are certain, if you keep eating wrongly, you don't realize immediately, but after some years, you will have bad health. If you don't breathe properly, a diaphragmatic breathing, then after some time diseases will catch you, isn't it? If you don't prepare your mind to think to become empty and be calm, then as you grow older and collect more and more and more data, eventually it becomes uncontrollable. That is the consequence, isn't it? So we see here the best way to keep our mind calm. First way is given is how we come to know through these type of sentences, by which we come to recognize what we should and what we should not do in our daily life. Very important initially. If a child is not told all this, he will be unruly. It cannot be a 5-year-old or a 7-year-old or a 10-year-old or even a 14-year-old has yes, they are born free in a free country, but there should be certain do's and don'ts applicable on them so that they develop a proper personality. Otherwise, they become a problem to the society. More than becoming a problem to the society, they become a problem to themselves. And therefore, this is the first type of vakyas, sentences. They are called Gauna Vakya. Those sentences which establish do's and don'ts to various type of people. Then second type are those sentences which demand action. What are they? These are the obligatory duties of individuals. And for example, for such people, that what karmas you need to do in your daily life, the nitya karma and nimittika karma, these are the karmas that are being told. Gauna karmas were what you need to practice in your daily life. I made a mistake there. Gauna karma is where you should do this sadhana, you should do that sadhana. If you don't do that sadhana, you may not realize now. You must have heard many people saying, oh, only if we had come to know, if I had this knowledge when I was young. Someone is learning Vedic chanting from me. He's old. Old means he must be in his 72, 74, not out. But at that time, but for a few years he is learning, but he is not able to catch the tunes perfectly. Again and again his mind is going back into the wrong tunes that he has learned by himself. Not through someone, by himself. See? Or what some of the tunes, they were, as a child they were taught, but they were wrong tunes. He says, oh, if I had, I said, the opportunity was there, you must have come. Yes, we had, but that time I did not feel it was important. That time I did not feel pranayam was important. That time I did not feel that yoga is important. That time I did not feel satsang is important. Then that time only becoming successful was important. But now, having come to the old age, arthritis here, arthritis there, some diseases, back is now got operated, and head is still very sharp and strong. But now this feeling is coming that I wish I had done all this when I was young. So what is this? The remembrance that I omitted to do something that was supposed to be done at the right time. Isn't it? Yes. You cannot do yoga when you are 70 years old. Impossible. You cannot do pranayam also when you are 70 years old. But people don't listen. They think that we are trying to discourage them at 70-year-old to do pranayam. It is very, very unhealthy to do pranayam at that age. And that too not just by listening to a CD or going to one class and learning from someone and then practicing it at home. At that age, if you are really committed to pranayam, go and find a teacher and do it on a daily basis. It should be 3 sessions a day if you want to purify yourself. It is not, if I had time, I'll do pranayam. Oh, I think this is a good, oh, my forehead is shining after 1 week of doing pranayam. Is that what you are doing for pranayam for? For making your forehead shine because you do Kapalabhati? That is not the purpose. So here we see that Gauna sentences, Vakyas, they lay down the do's and don'ts for living an ideal life so that we don't have to face the consequences of our omissions in our daily life. If you do on a daily basis, do your puja, do your sandhya vandan, do your what you call lighting of the lamp, etc., etc. And not just as a mechanical thing, but as a with pure intention, and offer all the mistakes that you did during the day, or all the projects that you initiated and completed. You offer everything at the feet of the Lord. Then your mind is empty. You will go and have a wonderful sleep. There is no guilt of any sort. You recognize that everything is happening by His will. Can you just do me one favor? There's TV going on, I think. Just put it off. Then the second one is the sentences, the vakyas that demand action. And what are these? These are those sentences which tell you to do action in form of karma. That if you do this karma, a Brahman must do this karma, a Kshatriya must do this karma, a Vaishya should do this karma, a mother should do this karma, a father should do this karma, a king should do this karma, the subjects must do this action. So there are different actions attributed to everyone, not doing which you get a $295 ticket. Huh? Not doing which. So it is clearly written down that these are your obligatory duties. What are the obligatory duties? Nitya karma and naimittika karma. Nitya karma, when the child is conceived, when he is born, when he is baptized, when he is turning 1 year old, and so on. 16 naimittika karmas are there throughout life. Nitya karma, every day brushing your teeth, taking shower in the morning, doing your sadhana in the morning, not get up at 10 o'clock and then brush your teeth, and all that is not Nitya karma. You will face the consequences of that. And then these sentences that demand action, this is one type, and the second type are those that demand action in the form of upasana. So one is in the form of action, which is gross, which is the Nitya and Naimittika, and the other are the upasanas. So you have to do your chanting of the name of the Lord. You must do your meditation every day, and etc., etc. And then what will happen? That with the Nitya karmas, with your daily obligatory duties, doing according to where you find yourself in life, if you do that, your general environment remains harmonious. Not too much agitation in the mind. When from the outside world, so remember, yoga says the first two things, yama and niyama. Yama is living such a life that the outside world does not become a problem to you, nor you become a problem to the world. For that you have to follow the obligatory duties. If you don't do your duty, if the wife is not doing, the husband will eat her head. If husband is not doing, wife will eat her head. If parents are not doing, children will eat their head. If husband and wife are not doing towards their parents will, and in-laws will eat their head. So there is continuous stress and tension. But if you are doing your duties, then there is no guilt in your mind, and your mind is free. You create a harmonious environment. And the second is by doing the various upasanas, meditation exercises, pranayamas, chanting the name of the Lord, meditation. Why do people do this? Only because they want to go to the heavens. So those people who are attached to action, such people will either be doing obligatory duties, or they'll be taking the name of the Lord, etc., in order to reach the abode of their Lord. This is the two parts where two aspects where the sentences that demand action there are statements. And in this way, and the third type of sentence is that these are called the Mahavakyas. So we saw now Vakyas means sentence. Sentence means that which indicates meaning about something. Then we saw first was the Gauna Vakya, and that was about the do's and don'ts. Second was the sentences that demand action. In that action there were two types of action, Nitya Karma and Nishiddha Karma. Nitya Karma is that which should do on a daily basis. Nishiddha Karma is that we should not do. This is told by the scriptures. And Nitya and Namitika, sorry. And then the third type of category now is the sentences are Mahavakyas. What are these Mahavakyas? Mahavakyas are sentences, I shouldn't say sentences, they are statements of fact. This is a tripod. That's it. Nothing to be added. So what is it? What is this sentence saying? It is indicating, sentence is, the basic meaning of sentence is that which indicates something and you get knowledge of it, isn't it? But when I say, hey, can you see this is a tripod. So tripod was already existing. But I am saying this is a tripod. So Mahavakyas, statements of fact, are those sentences which indicate that which is already existing. That which is already existing. See? This is a temple. A temple is already existing. This is a statue of Shiva. It's already existing. You also saw it. Every one of us saw that statue. This statement was not required. Yet this statement was made, isn't it? And sometimes we are in this room, we have seen things, but our attention is not there. So sometimes you need to remind. Sometimes when we are taking the satsang, many times we remind you to, not you, us, remind ourselves to look at certain aspects of our life which you know, but you have never looked at it at that angle, isn't it? So they were already there. You know, you wake, dream and sleep every day. You know that. And you know that these three are coming and going every day. See? But that you are the one who knows that these three come and go every day, that you have not put attention upon. You think it's the waker only, but it is not possible when you look at it a little bit deeply. See? You look at waves every day, you look at water every day, but you don't realize that wave is given to a form which is nothing but water, but being called by a different name called wave. Till we don't come to Vedanta, we don't realize that the mistake that we are making. So Mahavakyas, these great statements of truth, are those which state the fact. And what is the fact? The fact is that you are that conscious principle. You are that life force. You are that totality that ever was. And towards this, our indication is, sentences are told, statements are made, and so that our mind gets directed towards what these statements of truth are indicating. Sometimes when we go in this night, We, in the retreat in the Candlebark farm, we see the Hanumanji, we see the various constellations. It's there in the sky for everyone to see. But sometimes someone needs to point it out in order for you to apprehend it, isn't it? It's already there. Exactly the same way. Certain things are already there in our life. The life force, the conscious principle is already there in our life. But our attention needs to be directed towards it. And that is the job of these statements of truth called Mahavakyas in Sanskrit. And there are many Mahavakyas in all the Vedas. There are 4 Vedas. But here, we are the Panchadashi is addressing only 4 main Mahavakyas, one from each Upanishad. One from each Veda. The Rig Veda, Yajur Veda, Sama Veda and Atharvana Veda. Out of each one, it will address one most important statement of truth. So for example, from the Rig Veda, from Aitreya Upanishad, the first one that we are going to study is the Prajnanam Brahma. That is given in the first verse. So the first 2 verses will be taking care of, will be addressing, looking deeply into what is Prajnanam and what is Brahma. And in this way, this 5th chapter of Panchadashi is, after having gone through Tattva Vivek, then Panchabhuta Vivek, and then Panchakosha Vivek, and then Dvaita Vivek. Now, after having discriminated the essence, the Panchamahabhut, the 5 great elements, then the 5 sheaths, then what duality, the Ishvara duality created by Ishvara and the duality created by Jiva, after addressing all this, our mind is sufficiently withdrawn from the matter and is focused on this reality. See, it has withdrawn sufficiently, but it is not staying on the reality. To make it once and for sure stay and become steady on the reality, on the conscious principle, that is always the support of the Mahavakyas is taken. These Mahavakyas are not like japa. For example, you say Shri Ram, Jai Ram, Jai Jai Ram. You cannot say Prajnanam Brahma, Prajnanam Brahma, Prajnanam Brahma. Nothing is going to happen. Aham Brahmasmi, Aham Brahmasmi. If you do it like a japa, nothing is going to happen. Then what has to be done about these Mahavakyas? They have to be contemplated into. They have to be dissected. You have to see that these words, remember, words put together make sentences, and sentences indicate something, isn't it? The word Radha is not Radha. It is indicating Radha. Exactly the same way. The Mahavakyas indicate the truth, the reality. So here, the Tat, there is Prajnanam Brahma, there is Ayam Atma Brahma, there is Aham Brahmasmi, there is Tattvamasi, there is Brahmatmaikya Bodha, and this way Akhilam Brahma. There's many, I'm just giving you few, but there are many more Mahavakyas. So now let's get into the first one. Yenekshate shrunotidam, Yenekshate shrunotidam, Jigrati vyakaroti cha, Jigrati vyakaroti cha, Swadvaswadu vijanati, Swadvaswadu vijanati, Tat prajnanam udiritam, Tat prajnanam udiritam. that by which one hears, sees, hears, smells this world of objects, and that by which one speaks, tastes the good and the bad tastes, is called as prajnanam, that is consciousness in this Mahavakya. All knowledge as we know it at this moment is taking place because of consciousness. That conscious is neither created nor destroyed, isn't it? Are you creating the hunger? Are you creating the heartbeat? Are you creating the movement of the blood throughout the system? Are you creating the breathing, what you call, process? See? So what is this? That because of which this whole thing is functioning is called prajnanam. So what is that? Again, as I told you, this first shloka and the second shloka will be dealing with this one verse, Prajnanam Brahma. There are 8 verses in this chapter, and every 2 verse, one Mahavakya is taken care of. So tat prajnanam iritam. So iritam, where is it? Iritam. So tat prajnanam iritam. That is called prajnanam. That is called consciousness. What is called consciousness? That because of which seeing, hearing, touching, feeling, tasting, etc., etc. come about. So what is that? Yena ikshata iti shrunoti idam jigrati vyakaroti cha. So yena ikshate shrunoti idam ikshati, idam shrunoti, idam jigrati, idam vyakaroti, idam vijanati. So that idam means this. This, when we say this, oh, this is a carpet, this is a tripod. No, in Vedanta, this constitutes everything in this universe. Everything in this universe. So this is seeing, or idam ikshati. Iksha means to see. Shrunoti. Shruno means to hear. Jigra means to smell. Vyakarodi means to speak. Swada swadu, aswadu, to taste or not to taste. Vijanati means to know. So you know Sanskrit. So you know Sanskrit. So what is it? Idam ikshata, this is seen, this is heard, this is smelt, this or that is spoken, vyakaroti, swadu aswadu vijanati. This taste, presence of a taste or absence of a taste is known. That because of which you come to know forms, sounds, taste, all the 5 senses, that is prajnanam. So, yena idam ikshate, that by which colors and forms are seen. Is the eye seeing the colors and forms? Is the eye seeing the colors and forms? Then who's seeing? Is the light seeing the objects in this house, in this room? Or is it illuminating these? So light is falling on these objects and your eyes are seeing them, isn't it? Agree?
Yes.
So your eyes are seeing the objects in the world, ears are hearing the objects in the world, etc. Let's just take the ikshate for the moment. And therefore, whatever is seen is it known by the eyes or is it known by the mind?
Known by the mind.
If mind was not there, can knowledge take place? This is first our understanding, okay? That the eyes do not see for themselves, right? The information is going in, it is going into the mind. Now, is the mind thinking for itself? Or the thinking in the mind is being illuminated by some other factor without which can you come to, do you know that you are thinking right now? You are listening to me. You are listening to me right now. So these sounds, words that I am pronouncing, they are entering through your ears. Shrunoti. So they are entering through your ears. Ears have no purpose, but hearing is going on.
Yes.
Then they are appearing as thoughts in your mind at this very moment. Does the mind have any purpose for it? Is the thought possible in the mind without the life force? If right now, if I'm, whatever the words I'm saying, if suppose this is the sequence of words, whatever the words I'm saying, they have come into your mind. Is the mind thinking or you're observing that these thoughts have appeared in the mind? Because I can say yes or no, I can know something objectively, isn't it? Therefore I can talk about you because you are other than me. I am illuminating you through my eyes. I am illuminating you through my eyes. Similarly, the five senses are also getting illuminated by the mind. Therefore, I know that there are five senses. Do I know that there are thoughts appearing in the mind at this moment? Yes. Then if I know that there are thoughts appearing in the mind, I must be other than the thoughts. Who is illuminating that thoughts? Agree or not? The one who is illuminating these thoughts is Prajnanam. This one, because of whom thoughts are getting illuminated, the five senses are getting illuminated, and as a result of that, the whole world is getting illuminated, is Prajnanam. This Prajnanam, this consciousness cannot be known by the mind through the thoughts. But when I bring, just now as I was taking you through it, you can imagine, it's not an imagination also, but you know that thoughts are appearing and going and you are knowing them, isn't it? Is that not your experience at this moment? You may not be able to see the consciousness, but you know that thoughts are coming and going. And if you are seeing the thoughts coming and going in your mind, you must be other than the mind. This conclusion we can come to. That one who is knowing that the thoughts are coming and going in your mind is Prajnanam. Okay? See? So the outside world is illumined by our eyes, our five senses are illumined by the mind, and the thoughts in the mind are illumined by someone, therefore we know the thoughts, isn't it? That someone, that something, that conscious principle, that light in which we are able to see the thoughts is Prajnanam. We are not still looking into what Brahma is. We are just looking at Prajnanam. Prajnanam is that intelligence. And that intelligence, you know you are at this moment, you know you are alive. You know you are conscious. That is Prajnanam. Thoughts come and go. Colors and forms come and go. Sounds come and go, tastes come and go, taste and no taste come and go. But this light ever remains the same, isn't it? So, in the waking state, a meaningful sequence of thoughts is there during the day. In dream state, meaningless sequence of thoughts is there. In deep sleep state, no thought is there. So, mind with thoughts or without thoughts, is it not known by you? That is prajnana. As long as this knowingness is there, that conscious principle which is knowing this or that in the world, inside or outside, that consciousness is called prajnanam. Come to this understanding. So just like all the colors and forms are supported by the eyes, isn't it? All the sounds are supported by the ears. All the tastes, good, bad, whatever, are supported by the tongue. Similarly, all the feelings are supported by the skin. All the good and bad speech is supported by the throat. But all the senses put together are supported by the mind. All the thoughts in the mind are supported by the one who knows, isn't it? You can say supported, you can say illumined. Right? If you don't have mind, you will not know that there are five senses. Then you are a vegetable, isn't it? So come systematically, come back to this conscious principle. And this support can never be removed. It is permanent. It does not come and go. So many, how many? We are 50, 60 years old now. So all these 365 days times 50, 60 years, not counting the times that we have slept 2-3 times in a day. If we just take once a day, waker, dreamer, deep sleeper, waker, dreamer, deep sleeper, waker, dreamer, deep sleeper, every day. But have we ever felt that we are absent? Even once? No. Can you say that, yes, in the deep sleep I was totally dead to the world. But in one given day, you know, the waker, dreamer and deep sleeper came and went, isn't it? So that means this knowing principle, this illuminating principle of this waker, dreamer, deep sleeper, this is not the point here, I am expanding it, is always there. So it never comes and goes. The waker, dreamer, deep sleeper can come and go. The thoughts can come and go. The colors and forms, the sounds, the tastes, everything comes and goes. But this ultimate illuminator, the ultimate knower of all these, he never comes and goes. He is permanent there. He is the substratum. And he is, the name given to this conscious principle is prajnanam. So where our attention goes? Our attention goes on the colors and forms. Our attention goes on the sounds. Our attention goes on the tastes. Our attention goes on the imaginations, the thoughts, the ideas, the concepts. But our attention never goes to the one because of whom all these are possible. If your attention is going on a concept, that concept will be changed by another concept in a span of time, in a period of time. If your attention is going to some form, that form will go away after some time in front of your eyes and another form will come to, isn't it? You are listening to words, shrunoti, you are listening to a sound, that one sound will go away and will be replaced by another sound. It will happen. Why? The, the colors and forms, the sounds, the tastes, the feelings, the emotions, the thoughts, they are all changing. Recognize this. But what do? We put attention only on the changing things, changing aspect of this creation. And then we complain to ourselves, why my mind is not becoming quiet? If you keep looking at the changing, your mind cannot be quiet. So what do we need to do to make it quiet, to recognize? We have to shift our attention to the one because of whom this change is possible, who's illuminating that change. And is that illuminator outside of you, is from someone from outside putting light into your head and telling you, now you look at the thoughts, now you look at the emotions, now you put the light out from inside your head into the eyes and ears and then illuminate it outside? Is someone from outside coming and doing it? No, we know it is us only, isn't it? Be aware of that one. Be aware of that one. Continuous alertness about this knowing principle without getting caught up in the changing forms, in the changing sounds, in the changing senses or the changing mind, and standing apart and continuously putting attention on this, being aware of this conscious light which is illuminating all this, will settle the mind. Prajnanam Brahma. This is Prajnanam. And nobody can deny that they are not at this very moment, isn't it? Nobody can deny they are not knowing what thoughts are appearing in the mind, isn't it? So which means you are the knower of the thoughts. If you are the knower of the thoughts, you have to be other than the thoughts in order to know them. You are the subject, thoughts are the object. Sometimes, initial stages, to separate yourself seems difficult because you are trying to work it out in the mind. So you are lost in the thoughts. Take a deep breath, slow down. Know, as you slow down, the thoughts are coming and the thoughts are going away. Then there is silence. So there is presence of thoughts and there is absence of thoughts. There is presence of waker and dreamer and there is absence of waker and dreamer, which is called deep sleep. And you know that these three are coming and going. Similarly, you know that sometimes there are thoughts, sometimes there are no thoughts. And if you, without any commentary in your mind, watch this process going on in your mind, you don't need to say, oh, I am the one who's watching this, what is coming and what is not coming. I am the one who's watching the presence of thoughts and the absence of. You don't have to make that statement. You know that you are the witness of presence of thoughts and the absence of thoughts. The one who is aware of this, not of the presence and absence of thoughts, the one who is aware of this illuminator, the one who is aware of this knower, the more you keep putting attention to this is Prajnanam. Sometimes people are looking outside, eyes are open, they are looking outside. But they are looking within. So I am talking to you in words, which is extrovertedness. But where is my attention at this moment?
Inside.
Introvert. It's on that conscious principle. You see? When you are listening to the words through your ears, but Where is the various sentences that have been heard by you, what are they indicating? Are they indicating the thoughts? No, they are indicating the illuminating principle, isn't it? That which is always. Remember, statements of truth are that which are indicating that which already exists. So this conscious principle is already existing. We are just using words so that our attention goes there. So you don't even have to, you are listening to me, but how you are listening to me? Through your mind. Their thoughts are appearing in your mind. And you know these thoughts are appearing in your mind. And in this way, this prajnanam is that knowledge, is that knowingness which never comes and goes. It is permanent. So there are two words. One is jnanam and one is prajnanam. So jnanam and prajnanam. What is jnanam? Jnanam is knowledge. What is that knowledge? Knowledge of the world. Knowledge of anything which comes and goes. What is prajnanam? Knowledge of that without thought which never comes and goes. So this is the exercise now. When you are sitting on the seat of meditation, put your attention. Is my attention on which is coming and going? If it is, stop. Don't pull yourself, because pulling yourself from that will be a reaction that will agitate your mind. So, okay, I'm still caught up in jnanam because thoughts are coming and going. What is prajnanam? In whose light are these thoughts coming and going? In the presence of consciousness. And I know that these thoughts are coming and going. Stop. No more commentary in your mind. Even if the commentary is going on, you still know that you are. Otherwise, how can that statement be made? See? Again and again coming to this point is the reason that the Shruti, the Vedas, have declared Prajnanam Brahma. At an individual level, recognize you are that conscious principle, which is the unchanging principle, which is uncorruptible by thoughts, by colors, by forms, by sounds, by taste, by knowledge or no knowledge. No. It is the wisdom. It is always there. It is the one which is making you function whether you know it or you don't know it. It is the one because of whom all your faculties are functioning. That is prajnanam. Beautiful, no? That is prajnanam. See, in jnanam, when I said it is knowledge of something which comes and goes. Jnanam or knowledge is always about something other than you. And how is the knowledge about something other than you formed? The knower, the known, and the knowing. The three are there, the triputi. So that knowledge which is formed due to these triputis is called knowledge or jnanam. Prajnanam, you are knowing that this triputi is functioning and thoughts are getting formed. So you are illuminating that process also. Because if you slow down your thought process, you will come to know. When you go to sleep, your thoughts have become very slow and shallow. And a thought comes about some memory in the day, something that you need to do. You know this thought is coming. and you say, I don't want to be disturbed by this, and you think of the sleep. Is sleep an object that you can think about? Yet you contemplate on sleep, which is an idea in your mind. And what is the idea? A zero mind. And that itch that I've forgotten something, that I have to do this, I have to do that, which is coming in your mind, it gets dropped away, isn't it? Similarly, when we are sitting on the seat of meditation, or wherever we are, in Vedanta you don't need to sit on the seat of meditation. You can practice this anywhere at your free will. Because it is not something that is special. It is always there with you. Bring yourself to come to be that conscious principle again and again, in whose presence all the senses and the mind and the intellect are functioning. That is prajnanam. Prajnanam is not because of a triputi. Yes, right now when I use the word prajnanam, it is formed because of triputi. But what it is indicating, is not other than the self that I am, isn't it? And for that the self that I am, the conscious principle that I am, I don't need thoughts. I know I am. This statement keeps coming to my mind again and again. It is not, I think, therefore I am. No. I am, therefore thinking happens. When we become obsessed with studies, when we become obsessed with thinking, when we become obsessed with the world, when we become obsessed with objectivity, the premise in our psyche is, I think, therefore I am. So we think, without thinking, I am going mad. Without thinking, knowledge is not possible. Yes, without thinking, knowledge of the world is not possible, maybe. But we are not talking about the knowledge of the world. We are talking about the wisdom. We are talking about the self. And for that, thoughts are not required. Recognize this. This little shift that I am at this moment, therefore thinking is happening, therefore seeing is happening, therefore speech is coming out and sometimes sometimes not coming out. That conscious principle, I am. And similarly, yena idam jigrati vijanati and what do you call? Swadu aswadu. Vijanati. Vijanati visheshena janati. Means specific knowledge. Form is a specific knowledge. Taste is a specific knowledge. So jnanam is all specific knowledge. Can you say self is a specific knowledge? As long as it's a thought in your mind, it is specific. But what it is indicating is not specific. It is general. See? Bulb is specific knowledge. But light, is it specific knowledge? It is general. It is a principle. So when our attention comes to this general principle of life called consciousness, understand the moment. Now if you understood this example, bulb is specific knowledge, the light is general knowledge. It is a principle which is common to all bulbs, isn't it? Exactly the same way. This consciousness is common to everything in this creation. It is not specific. One per person. No. You also know what I am talking about. You also know, you also know, and if others want to know, they also know, but their attention is not there on it. That's all. Satsang is where you shift that attention from extrovertedness to the inner core, to the substratum. But what is that inner core? Oh, that which was already there. So statements of fact, Mahavakyas are sentences which indicate that which is already there. So here through this Prajnanam Brahma, Prajnanam, that which is already there. Where in this equipment that we have, at this moment we know we are this body. So first is recognition of that conscious principle within this body. Oh, it is one, you just now said it is not one per person, it is one expressing through all. That will come in the next verse. Brahma. First catch it here. First catch it within yourself. You don't even have to catch it, it's you are, that's it. But it's just a way of speaking. So in this way, so don't give too much attention on what you are seeing, hearing, touching, feeling, tasting, thinking, feeling, etc., etc. Then how should we be? Oh, what is the spice of life then? If we are not enjoying what we are seeing, we are not enjoying what you are hearing, then what's the point? You first find out what is your focus in life. Is it enjoyment which comes and goes, or you want permanent bliss? If your goal is permanent bliss, then temporarily give away these temporary enjoyments. And come to be like a mirror, which reflects everything but which retains nothing. So let your mind be like that. Reflect everything but don't retain anything. Slowly, 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 the awareness of the self which was already there, it will keep growing. See, then the argument will come, how can consciousness grow? Isn't it? But is it not that your mind from childhood to today, it has grown? Has it not expanded? Has it not gained so much knowledge? Has it not collected so much information, useful and useless? Isn't it? Throughout its life till today. So it has expanded and it is naturally happening. See? So was that knowledge, the capacity, the potential not already there within the mind? It was there. So similarly, this consciousness is already there, but it is covered. Allow it to expand. And the only way it can expand is when the thought, initial stages, when the mind becomes calm. Just like in the ocean, the full moon is reflecting. But can you see the reflection of the full moon? No. Why? Because there are so many waves. But when the waves calm down, then you don't create the reflection of the moon, it's already there. So was it not there before? It was there, but you were unable to see it. Why? Your attention was on the waves. Where have those waves gone? Oh, the wind stopped and the waves subsided. And the reflection appeared. So is appearance of the reflection of the moon in calm waters, is it expansion of the moon? But we use that type of language, isn't it? So if the waves of thoughts in our mind subside, then the consciousness which is already there, it will start reflecting through that mind. Is it not happening right now? It is happening. It is happening right now. But we are not able to sustain attention. We are not able to be that. Why? The moment we are that, immediately a thought comes. I am that. Gone. See? So we sabotage it because we are so addicted to thinking at the moment. So slowly, 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 we keep coming back to the awareness that we are, in whose presence the thoughts are coming and going, the colors, forms, tastes, etc. are coming and going. And slowly, 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 when we take this position of being the watcher, being the witness, initially this is the way. And because we are not reacting to what is coming to us, slowly the mind calms down. Every time the mind calms down, the reflection becomes almost complete, isn't it? So if on an ocean there are millions of waves and suddenly the wind drops and the waves are becoming less and less, as they are becoming less and less, the reflection of the moon, oh, I can see quarter of a moon now, oh, I can see half a moon now, I can see 3/4 of the moon now, oh, yahoo, I can see the whole moon now. Isn't it? Exactly the same thing happens inside initially. This is the beginning stages. As the thoughts subside, the reflection of the consciousness through that quietened mind, meaning you become steady on it for some time. It's not an expression, but that knowingness is there. And slowly, 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 as you keep practicing and practicing and practicing, your abidance in yourself as that consciousness without a thought becomes steadier and steadier and steadier. That consciousness is there right now, but steadiness is not there. Sometimes sleep comes, sometimes dream comes, sometimes listening happens. And that principle, which is illuminating everything, is a knower of everything, is functioning through everything, is prajnanam. It's the same electricity which is functioning through all the bulbs. See? It is the same water which is functioning through the wave. Inside and outside, it is only water. When the wave is thinking about water, it is prajnanam. Then it wants to be the witness. Oh, I am the water in this wave and I am not the form. And he keeps watching. So you keep watching your thoughts, you keep watching your senses, you keep watching the world through your five senses, but not get disturbed. If mind gets disturbed, you are not disturbed. You are witnessing, you are knowing. Mind has the freedom to get disturbed or not get disturbed, right? But you are illuminating the disturbance or the non-disturbance, isn't it? Always come back to this position. Rather than say, I am disturbed. The moment you say, I am disturbed, you have got identified with disturbance. Remain neutral. Put the vehicle in the neutral. And in this way, just like mirror reflects everything, reacts to nothing, retains nothing, let your disposition be also like that. You are aware of the whole world, but you do not retain and react to anything in the world. Very important. Prajnanam. Then prajnanam. Then you are that knowing consciousness, who is knowing that disturbances are coming, but it is not reacting to them. And the more we practice, slowly, 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 yeah, the abidance will come. And as a result of this, once it clicks, once you become steady in it for a short period of time, just like when we taste jalebi, and oh my God, what a wonderful taste, we want it again and again. When we taste ourselves without any tongue, when we see ourselves without any eyes, when we think about ourselves without any mind, then we want to get to that, to be that all the time, again and again. So you want to keep, such a person cannot be involved in the world, because he wants to go back into that pristine state of being where nothing matters and yet everything, every possibility is there. See? And it brings you back to deeper and deeper contemplation. Experiences comes and goes, knowledge comes and goes, wisdom doesn't come and go. Wisdom, another word for wisdom is consciousness. Consciousness doesn't come and go. Experiences come and go. So see, if you are sitting in the meditation, was it an experience which came and went, which you remembered afterwards? If it was, drop it. Immediately. Train yourself to think instantly. And that you have to practice during waking period. What is that? Who illuminated that experience? Who illuminated that thought? Who illuminated that anger? In whose presence did that emotion come and go? Because you know it is come and gone. And fall back. Don't react, don't retain. Fall back. At that very moment, the moment you ask the question, you are there. This consciousness, this pure consciousness is prajnanam. चतुर्मुखेन्द्रदेवेषु मनुष्याश्वगवादिषु चैतन्यमेकं ब्रह्मातः प्रज्ञानं ब्रह्ममय्यपि. There is but one consciousness in Brahmaji, Indra, gods, human beings, horses, cows, etc. Therefore, it is called Brahma in this Mahavakya. In me also the same consciousness alone is, hence I am also Brahma. So, how to contemplate, how to convert this awareness of consciousness, this thought-free awareness of consciousness that I am, into Brahma, into the total consciousness. Because first stage, consciousness was recognized within this body, isn't it? Now this consciousness has to be recognized as the one which is expressing through, in and through everything in the cosmos. That is the topic of the second verse. Prajnanam brahmamayyapi. I am that consciousness which is one without a second in this whole creation. Om Purnamada Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnamevavashishyate. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Hari Om. Shri Gurubhyo Namaha. Hari Om. Just sit quietly for 2-3 minutes.